Okay. Um, I'm going to continue answering questions and hopefully this is useful and helpful for your study. All right, so let's begin. Let's begin. So we already answered this one. Let's move to the next question. So the next question says, which of the following statements, which of the following statements are correct about the AWS root user account? You're supposed to select two here. Option one, root user credentials should only be shared with managers requiring administrative responsibilities to complete their jobs. We're gonna keep that for a while. Maybe we will come back to it. I'm just gonna um what's a smart pen? I don't know. Okay. Let's just keep that one for now. Root user access credentials are the email address and password used to create the AWS account. That sounds correct. The root user access credentials are the email address and password. Yes, very likely. So that is definitely correct. Root user account password cannot be changed once it is set. That's not true. So we're going to cancel that one. Root user account gets unrestricted permission when the account is created, but these can be restricted using IAM policies. No, the root user cannot be limited in access. So that's why you need to protect it very, very well. So that's wrong. It is highly recommended to enable multi-factor authentication for root user accounts. Absolutely correct. So based on these, we're going to cancel this first one. We're going to go with B and E. All right, I hope it's clear. You always want to have multi-factor authentication, and the root access credentials are always going to be username and password. All right, so that's the correct answer there. All right, let's go ahead to the next question. Now, the question is, a company wants a fully managed, flexible, and scalable file storage system. Keywords, fully managed, must be flexible, must be scalable. I want the file system storage to grow, but it's saying a file system storage. Remember, I told you that there are three kinds of storage. We have object storage, we have block storage, and we have file system storage. All right. Now, the things you need to know about these ones, I just want to use this opportunity to teach. So object storage, the services we'll be thinking about here would be services like S3, pretty much just S3 as our file storage. Then we have block storage, which for the most part is just EBS. You can also have instance store, which is not very popular, but instance store is like temporary peripheral storage that you attach to your EC2 instance, but it doesn't save after you close that EC2 instance down. And then we have the last one, which is file system. Now, this one has like a bunch of services within the file system type. You have EFS, we have FSX, different kinds of FSX. We have FSX for Lustre, which uses which works with Linux-based systems. We have FSX for Windows file system, obviously for Windows. And then we have but of different kinds. We also have FSX for Net App on tap. There's just a lot of them, but etc, right? Let me just leave it as etc. But just know that for when we talk about file system storage, these are the options we have. When we talk about block storage, this is what we have. And when we talk about object storage, that's what we have. So having said that, let's come back to the options and see if we can be more specific. It says it must be a file system storage, file storage system with low latency access. We want it to be really fast. For its Windows-based applications, automatically we can cancel a bunch of these. So S3 is out because it's not a file storage system. We can cancel EBS and Instant Store because we're talking about this. Next thing we will have to do is look into the file system and then look at the one that works with Windows. EFS, okay, I'm going to try and just draw a rectangle here. EFS is a works with Linux. Okay, so that's gone. Also FSX for Lustre, like I said, works with Linux. So definitely that also meets that. But then there is FSX for Windows file system. That is, of course, the correct answer. File server. I beg your pardon. So the correct answer to this question is going to be Windows file server. FSX for Windows file server. If you see Windows-based applications, that's the only one you can choose in all these options. All right, good. Let's proceed to the next question. A fleet of, now, clue again, it starts with a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances. So they're asking if you understand that we're not dealing with just one instance, but multiple instances. So a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances spread across different availability zones. So they're all in different availability zones. They need to access, edit, and share file-based data. So we're looking at a solution that allows EC2s, right? A lot of EC2s to connect somehow to a shared storage, a file-based data storage centrally. So this is kind of like what it's going to look like. Everyone is kind of plugged into this one file storage solution, right? While these are EC2s. I'm just trying to differentiate them. These are EC2s, and they're all trying to connect to this storage which is shared. So what service will you recommend? Number one, S3 might not be the best. Why is S3 not the best? The question is talking about a file-based data store. So a shared file-based data store. Can we share files in S3? Yes, but because it seems like what they're looking for is a file system share, distributed file system, like you can see here. So S3 is out. EC2 instance store would have been a good one, but again, it's not file based, so that's out. And then we're talking about a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances, so not just one. Instance store would have worked if it was they talked about storage attached to one EC2 instance that is not persistent, which means the data can be lost. So that's also out. Amazon Elastic Block Store is also out because they're in the same category of block storage. We're talking about file storage. So the correct answer is EFS. EFS allows you to share one, network attached storage, and everyone can connect to that without seeing any latency or performance issues. So that's the correct it's the correct answer. So look at the explanation. Simple, scalable, fully managed NFS, which means we're talking about Linux file system, and it can grow and all of that. Okay, let's move on. I hope you're learning something here. The next question should be straightforward. Which AWS service helps with global application availability and performance using the AWS Global Network? There are two services that we should know about the global network, AWS Global Network. They are, and I can just point them out here. They are CloudFront and Global Accelerator. So these two services have to do with um, the global, oh, the global network. Sorry, this is really messing up my writing, but they have to do with the global network, right? Global Accelerator has to do with performance of application and availability of the application, while CloudFront has a lot to do with just content delivery. So the correct answer here would be Global Accelerator. Why didn't we choose the other ones? Sorry, because for Route 53, that is just DNS and routing protocols. It has nothing to do with this. And then Elastic Load Balancer is with EC2s and it's not specific to availability, and performance. So the correct answer here is global accelerator. All right. And the definition is right here. So I think this is very important. You need to know the difference between global accelerator and CloudFront because these are commonly misunderstood. So I'm going to try and see if I can zoom this in so we can read it. Let's see. Yeah. So look at this. It says AWS Global Accelerator and CloudFront are separate services. CloudFront helps with what? Content, cacheable content, and dynamic content to serve content. But Global Accelerator improves performance. So it's helping with performance, not with content delivery. That's the clue. All right. So let's move on. Next question. Which of the following AWS services allows a database to have flexible schema and supports document data model? So if it says flexible schema, we mean it's not structured data we're dealing with now. We're not talking about relatable relational database. We're talking specifically about a non-relational database. So we don't even need to think too much. This one here is relational database. So that's out of it. Aurora is also a relational database, so that's out of it. DynamoDB is the only one that is here as a non-relational database, and it accepts document data models. While Redshift, I don't know if you can even call it like a database, but it's for data warehousing, so that's out. So the correct answer here is DynamoDB. All right. Next question. And I'm going to clear my screen again and we start. Which of the following services are always free to use? So which of these services are free, 100%? You don't pay anything for using them. I hope you're already thinking IAM. You don't pay to create a user or a role or anything like that. So that's definitely one. The other one we have to look at now, we have to look at all the services and say which one do we not pay for as a service itself. You pay for S3, for objects stored in S3 and objects that are transferred out of S3, you pay for those. You pay for your database, DynamoDB, right? You pay for database based on what is stored, as well as data transfer charges as well. Do you pay for EC2? Absolutely. You pay for the time that the EC2 instance is running. And so auto scaling is the correct other option. Remember the question says select two. So think about that. Okay, good. We're making progress here. We're almost done. We're just going to get to 65 questions and we should be good. Now, what are the different gateway types supported by storage gateway service? This is one where if you go back to our notes, you should remember the answer to this question. What is storage gateway to begin with? Storage gateway creates a hybrid solution where you can connect your on-premises storage to the cloud. So it's specifically for storage. And there are three different formats of that storage that you can work with. You can deal with file storage, right? Regular file storage, which would sync up with S3 easily. You have volume gateway or volume storage, which is for block storage. And we have tape gateway, which is an archival solution. So those are the three. So the correct answer here would be tape gateway, file gateway, and volume gateway, right? So not block gateway, file, volume, and tape. That's C. All right. Next question. A social media company wants to protect its web application from common web exploits. Now, this one, you have to know it just by definition. You want to protect it from SQL injection and cross-site scripting. When you see SQL injection and cross-site scripting, your mind should automatically go to web application firewall. That's what protects you from SQL injection and cross-site scripting. If you see DDoS in the options or in the question, you should go with Shield. If you see vulnerabilities in EC2 instances, you would go with Inspector. Guard duty is vulnerabilities in S3. All right, you're protecting S3 from attacks. That's guard duty. So the correct answer here is web application firewall. All right, and that's what it helps with. Next question. Which Amazon Route 53 routing policy would you use to improve the performance of your customers by routing the requests to the AWS endpoint that provides the fastest experience? So because we are talking about fastest experience, we are routing based on speed. We're not going to go with weighted routing or simple routing or failover routing. We'll go with latency based because remember I said latency has to do with speed. So latency based routing will be the correct answer here. All right, next question. Which of the following AWS services can be used to prevent denial of service attacks? We just talked about this now. So now this might be difficult, but it's straightforward. You just have to pick three that give you insight into this kind of attack. Number one is Shield, right? Shield will actually go ahead and protect you from that. But then you still have other services they're asking for here. Cloud HSM has nothing to do with this. This is a hardware module that protects from, that helps you with encryption. Trusted Advisor. Trusted Advisor might actually be a good option, but let's leave that for now. Inspector, that is vulnerabilities with your EC2 instances, which looks into vulnerabilities, not necessarily distributed denial of service attacks. Web application firewall does not help us specifically with DDoS. It helps us with cross-site scripting and SQL injection. But CloudFront works with Shield. So I'm going to put a shield over my CloudFront distribution, working with Route 53 to protect denial of service. So I have two options that I'm okay with, but I'm going to just choose Trusted Advisor because I think it should give me intel about how to configure my environment to prevent DDoS from even taking place in the first place. So let's see if this is a correct. Yeah. So, okay. I think WAF is selected instead of Trusted Advisor. And let's find out why. I'm actually shocked because WAF does not help with DDoS, but I guess there's another way. Okay, that makes sense. If you're using CloudFront with Route 53, then you would need to use WAF. All right. So if this option, if it was just asked to pick one, we'll go with Shield. If they're asking for three, they're asking for three because if you go with Cloud Front with Route 53, you also need to have a web application firewall to assist with that. And if you notice, if you look here, you can kind of see it here. It says AWS Shield is a managed distributed service. That's fine. But with web application firewall, notice what it describes here, that you can put this on your Amazon distribution and you can actually set some rules to block IP addresses of bad actors. So I can see how that will work for this use case. And there's actually a documentation that shows how Shield, CloudFront, and Route 53 work together to protect from DDoS. So this is just one of the exceptions to the rules here. All right, next. Which of the following AWS services are global in scope? They're asking you which of these services are not region specific. So you should be thinking IAM because it goes across all services. You should be thinking things like CloudFront, right? Because it's content delivery. So if you see those two options, go with them. CloudFront and IAM. Of course, relational database service is region specific. EC2 is region specific. Availability zone specific as well. S3 is also region specific. So these two are the correct answers. All right, next. Which AWS service publishes up to the minute information on the general status and availability of all AWS services? So it's checking the health of the different services. Well, this service is called AWS Health Dashboard. But because they're asking about the status of the services, I think we'll go with AWS Health Dashboard Service Health. That's the correct answer. Okay. You can check the health of the services to know if anyone is down globally or something is wrong. Next question. Which AWS service can be used to provision resources to run big data? When you see big data and you see Hadoop clusters, you should be thinking EMR immediately. Elastic MapReduce. So Elastic MapReduce works with Hadoop clusters. That's just a simple question that you just have to know factually what it means. And then that's the correct answer here. So EMR is the industry leading cloud big data platform. It works with Hadoop, Apache Spark, Apache Hive, Apache HBase. So these are all the different things that work with EMR. So if you see any of these, um, that's the correct answer to pick. Next question, which service gives a personalized view of the status of the AWS services that are part of your architecture? You want to see a personalized view of the services that are in your architecture, not the global services that are existing, but the ones you are using in your architecture, so that you can quickly access the impact of your business if anything is going on with the AWS services. Of course, you're gonna look at your own account health dashboard. So in this case, you choose C. Um, you know, your personal health dashboard. So notice the difference. The health dashboard is supposed to talk about events happening in AWS. But if you have them in your architecture, you can specifically look at the ones you are using and make sure that they are not affected. Right. I think we have two more questions to go and we should be done. So, which of the following is the correct statement regarding AWS storage services? This is a good straight to the point question. They said Amazon S3 is a file-based storage. Is that true? No, S3 is object-based storage. So that's wrong already. So we can cancel that out. Next question. Next option. Amazon Simple Storage Service is an object-based storage. Yes, correct so far. Elastic Block Store is a block-based storage. Correct so far. And Elastic File System is a file-based storage. We don't need to go through the rest. I think that's already good. If we see any other mistake, we can extract. So this is wrong because block storage is not for S3. This one is wrong because it says Elastic File System is a block storage. So the answer is B. All right, final question. According to the AWS shared responsibility model, which of the following are responsibilities of the customer? So they're asking us what are the responsibilities of the customer for Amazon RDS. Question to ask yourself, is RDS fully managed or is it infrastructure as a service? Is it the one that is given to you free to figure out and put your own operating system? The answer is no. It is fully managed, which means that you will not be able to have access to the underlying infrastructure. You cannot change the application. You cannot change the operating system. You only have control over the data that you put into RDS. So they're asking you which of the following is the customer's responsibility. So let's eliminate some. Um, Applying patches to the relational database. No, you don't apply patches. That's something that's done in the backend because it's managed by AWS. So that would be wrong. Managing the underlying server hardware where the RDS runs. No, you don't also need to worry about that. That's something AWS will do. Um, Applying patches to the underlying OS is also not you. So database encryption, you choose to encrypt the database or you choose to leave it unencrypted. So the answer is database encryption. Security, if you look at this chart, if you remember this diagram, um, security in the cloud, you can see that server-side encryption is mentioned there, especially when you're dealing with your data. Your data encryption is the customer's responsibility. All right, so that is it for this particular quiz that we've done, and I think it was good. We're gonna try another one just because I want to make sure that you have enough practice questions to work with. So I'm going to go back and we'll pick um you're going to do a speed round, and I want you to pause at some point if you want to read the question and choose the correct answer and see if you did well. Then feel free to do that. So we're going with practice test number 3, and that starts now. All right, question 1. It says a multinational company has its business critical data stored on a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances in various countries. key things to note here: a fleet of Amazon EC2 cloud instances, various countries, so we're talking different regions, configured in region-specific compliance rules. To demonstrate compliance, the company needs to submit historical configurations on a regular basis. So they want to get a record of every configuration that has been made. By saying historical configuration, we are definitely talking about um, um, configuration changes, right? So changes is what they're asking for. Which service handles change configuration or change management? The answer is config. Hopefully you went with that. And we're in exam mode. I wish we were in practice mode so that we can see that we're getting the answer as we go on. Let me see if there's any way to. Okay, we'll just go on and we'll see the final answer at the end of the exam. Question 2. A hardware failure, AWS hardware failure, has impacted one of your Amazon Elastic Block Store volumes. Which AWS service will alert you of the affected resource and a remedial action? So it tells you that the resource is broken and it will provide you with the action that you need to take to fix it. What option are we supposed to go with? Now, because it's saying that there's a hardware failure that's affected it, it's not something you did, it's just something that has affected you about it and will alert you of the affected resource. That means, and it's also because it's affecting one of your own volumes. So it's health, it's a health issue from the AWS side. So it's not going to be trusted advisor or config or guard duty. It's going to be health dashboard. And it's your account health, not the general service health, because it says it has impacted one of your volumes. So the answer is going to be D in this case. Let me see if I can actually switch to um I want to make sure I can switch to um a different method of this exam mode. Let me finish it. Um Let me see. Is there any other way I can switch? I really want to switch so we can go through it um one after the other and look carefully. It seems like I cannot. Let me go back to course content. Okay. It's in exam mode. Okay. So let's finish it. We will to say we failed, but we can we see we actually got all the questions. Oh, we missed one. Which one did we miss? Okay. The question I saw that I didn't answer. So let's take this quiz again. Um, retake test in practice mode and begin test. Okay. So the questions have switched up. Switched up. All right. So let's start this test quickly. So first of all, it says your an enterprise is developing a roadmap. This is a question on cloud adoption framework, right? Which of the following perspectives addresses strategy management capability? Strategy management capability. It wants to align with business objectives and deliver measurable value. So this is one I told you guys to read up. There are different perspectives. There's operations, there's governance, there's um, platform, and there's business. So the correct answer here, I'm not really sure to be honest, because cloud adoption framework is one of those that are really strange. So let's see the ones we can eliminate. Strategy management seems to be an operations thing, um, or a business thing. So it's between business and operations, in my opinion. Let's go with operations and see if we're wrong. Yeah, it's between business and operations. So um So, like I said, this is the one that I have to read up on, but everything is in here. Business, operations, everything is all in this documentation. So, that would be very helpful. So let's move on to the next question. Um, a development team is looking for a forum where the most frequently asked questions and requests from AWS customers are listed along with AWS provided solutions. Where should you go? So here you cannot go to the marketplace. That's where you buy products. Support center sounds like a good option, but it's not, because this is where you actually make your case and open a support ticket and get someone to answer it. But if it's most frequently answered questions, you want to go to the AWS Knowledge Center. All right, AWS Knowledge Center. That's where you get the help you need. Next question. A finance services and enterprise a financial services enterprise plans to enable multi-factor authentication for its employees. For ease of travel, they prefer not to use any physical devices. That means you don't want to deal with hardware tokens, right? So they want you to implement multi-factor authentication. Which of these should you use? Well, the option to go with would be a virtual MFA device, since they don't want to use any physical devices. So that should be the answer there. Question 4. Which of the following AWS services can be used to execute code triggered by new files being uploaded to Amazon S3? This is from one of the practice sessions that we had, if you recall. You want to execute code and you want it to be triggered by new files that are uploaded. The correct answer here is going to be Lambda, right? Lambda is going to do it automatically if you set it up to be triggered by the upload action. S3 has something called event notification. When that event notification is triggered, it will cause the Lambda function code to run. All right. So Lambda is correct answer there. We're going to stop at question 10 for this one. I'll do another separate video for you to, we can cover the rest. Question 5. Which of the following statements are correct regarding security groups and network access control lists? This is a very good question. You want to check your understanding. So, first option, a security group contains a numbered list of rules and evaluates these rules in increasing order while deciding whether to allow the traffic. That's unique to NACL, not to security group. So that's wrong. Same question, but network access. So that's the correct answer. But remember, it says select two. So that's one, because it contains a numbered list of rules and evaluates them in increasing order. The next one we should jump to is going to be D or E, right? Because the other ones, we know that's the question they're asking there. Here it says a security group is stateful, and then a security group is stateless. So we just really need to know, is it stateful or not? We know that it automatically allows return traffic. So the answer is D. So it should be B and D in this case, right? Question 6. This is very important. I don't know if we've covered this, but I want to explain this to you. Which AWS service will you use to privately connect your virtual private cloud? So you're connecting your VPC to S3. This is a unique case. The other cases we looked at are like connecting your on-premises to AWS cloud. This one is more specific to a service. When you see any question that says, how do you connect your cloud to a particular service? Think endpoint. Think endpoint. All right, so the correct answer here is VPC endpoint. There are two different types. There's interface endpoint and there's gateway endpoint, but just know that it is endpoint, not API gateway, not transit gateway, not direct connect, because it's from your VPC to an AWS service. So it's internal. All right, so that's the correct answer there. Question 7. An organization maintains separate VPCs. So we have different VPCs. This is different houses, cloud houses. for each of its departments. When you are expanding the business, the organization now wants to connect all these VPCs together. How do you do it? Well, if it is from on-premises to the cloud, you would use site-to-site VPN or direct connect, right? If you want physical or virtual. But if it is VPC to VPC, there is something called VPC peering. And so the correct answer here is VPC peering. Um, Again, if the number of VPCs are a lot, like there are several, VPC pairing will become tedious. So you want to have what they call a transit gateway. So we need to look at the question, is it a transit gateway or is it a VPC pairing connection that we want? So it says it maintains separate VPCs for each of its departments. So I can make the assumption that we're talking about at least 3 or more departments. So in that situation, I want it to be done effectively. VPC pairing is not transitive, but transit gateway will give me something better. So I'm going to go with transit gateway. And here's what it looks like. A transit gateway looks like this. So if you look at this diagram, VPC pairing does not allow for multiple pairings. Just VPC-B to VPC-A is one pairing connection. VPC-A to C is one pairing connection. But there's nothing like C to B with this option. So that's why we said transitive VPC pairing connection is not allowed. But with transit gateway, there's going to be a central hub called the transit gateway itself, right? And then you can have all the different VPCs connecting to that transit gateway. So that's something you need to know here. So transit gateway is the answer if it is 2 or more, or 3 or more, I should say, VPCs. Use transit gateway. If it's just 2, use a simple VPC pairing connection. All right, which of the following statements are correct about the auto-scaling group? It's just checking your understanding of how auto-scaling works. Does this scale in and reduce the number of EC2s to match a decrease in demand? That's true. It scales in. The opposite of in is what? Out. So it scales out and adds more EC2s to match increased demand. So these are the two, I think. Scales in and scales out. It does not scale up to upgrade an EC2. It does not scale down to um, reduce. This scaling down is a vertical thing. So it's going to be out or in. So A and B. All right, that's what auto scaling helps with. Now, two more questions. Two more questions. Which of the following are components of an AWS site-to-site VPN? So they're asking you like site-to-site VPN. We're trying to connect on premises to the cloud. How do we do that? So two components. You're going to need a virtual private gateway because it's a VPN, virtual private network. So you're going to need a virtual private gateway. And you're going to need one more thing. It might be a customer gateway or network translation gateway. Let's see what the answer is here. It's definitely not storage gateway. And I don't think we need network address translation because we're not talking about VPC to um some other VPC. So let's see, it might just be VPAG and this. We do need an internet gateway, but let's see. Yeah, it's customer gateway. So you need a virtual private gateway and you need a customer gateway. These are the components, right? The components are virtual gateway, private gateway. Then you also need to have a transit gateway, and then customer gateway and the customer gateway device because you're connecting on premises to the cloud. So you need something from the customer end and you need something from your side. So on your own side is the virtual private gateway, which is on the cloud, and then the customer gateway is the one that is on their on premises network. All right. So again, like I said, you don't always need to know all these things, but it just helps to know some of them. You're okay missing a few questions in the exam, but again, just do your best to eliminate the ones you know are wrong and keep the ones that you think are correct. AWS identity and access management policies, they're talking about the policies, which I've shown you before. They are written as JSON documents. Those are those things where you see like statements, principal, allow, deny, all those kind of stuff. So which ones are mandatory elements of an IAM policy? This is a little complex, but let's see. Which one must be there is what they're asking for. If you're dealing with an IAM policy, of course, the IAM is the the principle that you're working with. So you definitely need to have a principle in the you actually need to have the effect and the action. For an IAM policy, the priority is what do you want that IAM to ask that entity, user or group or no, user or role to do. So you want it to be able to have an effect. The effect could be allow or deny. And you want to have an action. An action could be maybe S3 put or S3 delete or something like that. So the correct answer is going to be effect and action. Those are mandatory to have. You don't have to have the principal because it's already the IAM we're talking about. You don't need condition and you don't need statement ID. They're not important. So it's effect and action. All right, so maybe we can do this last one because it's in S3. It's about S3. As a cloud practitioner, which Amazon Simple Storage service would you recommend? So they're asking which storage class would you recommend for data archival? That should be straightforward. Archival means to store for a long period of time. We won't use intelligent terrain for that. We wouldn't use one zone infrequent access. We wouldn't use standard. We would use Glacier flexible retrieval. All right, and there we are. So that's all. Pretty much from just reviewing these questions. Hopefully this is helpful. Do more practice questions. Reach out if you have any questions, and maybe I could do one more of this if many people are still